Forts are important in the history of mankind. Forts were built to ensure safety, security, and to ensure victory during wars. Good morning and welcome to the virtual field trip of Standard 7 to JANJIRA Fort in Raigad district in Maharashtra. This fort is very famous for tourists and trekkers. It is popular for its canyons and a panoramic view of the Arabian Sea. So boys, do you want to know more about JANJIRA Fort? Come, follow me. But wait, before we go on to this field trip, there are some rules to be followed. First, sit in a comfortable position with enough lighting and ventilation. Be focused. Keep a pen and paper ready to jot down the important points. Do not get up to go to the washroom or to eat something. Last but not the least, enjoy the field trip. So boys, what are we waiting for? Let's put on our seat belts and go on a historical ride of JANJIRA Fort.
Of all the forts in India, the fort at JANJIRA occupies a very special place. It is the rarest of a rare kind, a sea fort. And military historians believe that forts of this kind are almost impossible to subdue. And true to this belief, this fort remained unconquered throughout its career 3.5 centuries long. Long years ago, this was a small fishing village occupied by the Koli tribesmen who made a fortification here with wooden logs, thick wooden logs, as a protection against sea pirates who marauded them. And when the Siddhis discovered the strategic significance of this place, they built a massive fort here, which was almost invincible. Siddhis, originally from Abyssinia, were imported by Adil Shahi rulers as bodyguards, soldiers, able seafarers, and they pleased their masters so much that they were given increasing positions of responsibility. And across centuries, they became the de facto rulers of this place.
JANJIRA Fort is built on a small island on the Arabian Sea, just off the coast, 165 kilometers away from Alibag. The distance from the beach is about 2 kilometers. The waves of the sea playfully lap its thick ramparts, crowned with huge towers. This has been the seat of the Siddhis, Nawabs of Abyssinian origin, for over 500 years. A bastion that couldn't ever be conquered by any invader. The fort can be accessed only by a small boat capable of navigating the shallow waters. India is a country with a long coastline. The sea defines the border in a large part of its territory. The Siddhi immigrant soldiers of fortune saw the possibilities and established themselves here firmly. They fought many fierce sea battles with the Dutch, Portuguese, French, British, Mughals and the Marathas in the next 400 years. But no one could oust them. When they first set foot on Indian soil, the Siddhis from Africa served the Sultans of Bijapur. Soon they won renown all over the land for their exceptional valor and loyalty. Malik Ambar was the person to attain highest rank from this community. The Arabian Sea surrounding JANJIRA served as a deep moat, an immense body of water that couldn't be easily crossed by the enemy. The thick, strong walls of the ramparts extended to the very edge of the island, where the waves of the sea break against them. Towers reinforced the defensive armor. Any attempt to scale these could only be suicidal. Cannons placed on the ledges of these towers could easily target any intruder. The main entrance to the fort can be reached after climbing a set of slippery stairs. The small boat used to approach the landing point is constantly tossed by the waves, and visitors balance on it precariously. The path ahead suddenly takes a very sharp turn to face a rock-like wall. A small contingent of armed men could maul any hostile forces that somehow managed to sneak past the gate. One can have an idea of the strength of these walls by recalling that they stand firm after facing the relentless assault of salty spray for over 500 years. The Siddhis had placed 500 fire-spewing cannons in Janjira.
It was a very well protected fort, exclusively for Siddhis, and they were a terror. Even the British had to pay them taxes. They did not allow any ship to cross that area and the water. So they protected practically the richest port of Mughal India at Surat.
The Siddhis dominated the Konkan coast for a very long time. No other marine power, foreign or indigenous, could match them in a sea battle. Considering discretion the better part of valor, Aurangzeb appointed them to high positions and entrusted them with safeguarding his interests.
Aurangzeb's time, they became royal commanders, Siddhis, because they were fighting Marathas. For 150 years, Marathas attacked them right from the time of Shivaji, from 1659 onwards. Never ever this fort was captured because the politics of the time, the diplomacy of the time was such that Portuguese, the French, the Dutch, the British in the vicinity of Bombay, they all sided with the Siddhis, provided them arms and ammunition, even cash. Shivaji's capital city, Raigad, can you believe it remained under the possession, physical possession of the Siddhis of Janjira for 60 years, along with so many other forts.
Janjira enjoyed peace and prosperity during the reign of Siddhi Sultans. The rulers traditionally maintained intimate relations with their subjects. The sovereigns were treated by the commoners as members of a family. This bond was cemented by the awareness that enemies on all sides had to be faced together. Life and death were shared equally. Siddhi Nawabs, who had started as slaves, could understand very well the sorrows and joys of the underprivileged.
A unique feature of the Siddhi story and the history of Janjira Fort is that the ruling dynasty here did not belong to an illustrious imperial line, nor were they invading conquerors who conquered the province and named it their kingdom. They entered India as professionals and earned great riches and fame through their prowess. Once they decided to settle down here, they identified unabashedly as children of India. They married with the local people. In the beginning, it was possible to distinguish between the foreigners and the local. But as the bloodlines mingled, it became increasingly difficult to do so. At the time when India became independent, some 3,000 families stayed within the precincts of this fort. They belonged to 4 different communities: Siddhi Muslims, the Marathas, Koli fishermen, and the Bauds.
Many different styles of architecture are encountered here. Today the roof may not be intact on this palace, but the ruins bear testimony to its past glory. Sadly, lack of upkeep and repairs have reduced even the royal palace to a shabby pile of rubble.
If you look at the fort like Janjira, or if you look at a fort like, let's say, Vijayadurg, which is not very far from Janjira, you will find that these forts are extremely strategically and importantly located at certain nuclei where trade junctions take place. Where, let's say, riverine trade is coming down from the Western Ghats region and meeting the Arabian Sea. Now, this is where the toll is set up. This is where the tax barriers come up. This is where the local navy actually inspects which ships are carrying passes of which ruler. And this is where the confiscation of ships can also take place. So most of these forts you will find are situated at the mouths of rivers.
This seat of Siddhi power attracted traders from far and near and became a halting stage on commercial routes.
European companies are now demanding more goods from India to export to the European markets and the British markets and so on and so forth. So there is a growing globalization of this coastal economy, as it were, from the 16th century onwards. As a consequence of this global integration, increasing globalization of this economy, the revenue generated in this area is now increasing. These forts then play a very important role in the tapping of this revenue.
The Siddhis of Janjira were not merely peerless seamen. They were also exceptionally far-sighted. They knew how traders and merchants could add to their wealth.
Today it is difficult to imagine. Behind all this verdure lie ruins, buildings, palaces where lived kings and queens, where they used to be dazzled by markets, where came traders from all over the world. Only sad memories remain and linger on of the age gone by.
Today, they are remembered not only for their naval prowess, but also for their contribution to our pluralistic heritage.